141, right?
141, eh?
I didn't say it there.
The problem is that I've actually started saying A.
Have you started? Once you get in the habit of it, it's very easy.
It's super easy, and it's such a good thing, eh? It's just like it's like to emphasize to say, eh?
It's a better filler than I hate when I get myself when I get in this habit of saying a lot. Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Anyways, hello and welcome to episode 141 of the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike, what's going on?
Things are good in Denmark. We did it again. We released another one. As you can see, you're wearing a beautiful shirt as advertised last time. So that's been awesome. The Merc train is still in full swing. You got your boots. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'm good. It's looking like Manchester United are doing some business, but also some good business, which I'm very excited about. So
some wild transfer news, to be honest. Like, I'm just surprised at what I'm hearing. I don't know what to believe. Who knows?
But if they actually pull it, the funny thing is that I met him in January in Barcelona, and I think I jokingly said, because I really like him, come to Manchester United, and I'd wanted United to buy him back when he was at Ajax, and he went to Barcelona. But I just said, come to Manchester United, and we were just laughing. Yeah, good one, Jay. But let's see, it might be happening. So not too, but
looking more and more like it.
Big moves, Holland, Nunez, Sadio Mane. Who knows? It's big ones.
Yeah, lots of Chelsea rumors I've heard for a couple big players.
Rafinha as well could be that would be a great deal. Raheem Sterling. Do they need another winger who can't score to save his life? Like they do have Timo Werner. I don't hope I have to shoot Raheem Sterling after this. It's not going to go well.
Oh, that was mean, Jay. That was very mean.
That was mean. No, he's obviously a great player, but I feel like what they're lacking right now, especially after Lukaku's gone, they just need a center forward who just puts the ball in the net. Well, he hasn't exactly been doing that either, but hey, you know what I mean.
Yeah. For sure.
That's
what everyone needs, though.
True. That's what everyone needs. But Josh, how are things in Canada?
Okay. I was just telling you before we got on, I'm having some wisdom teeth issues. Ooh, and it's not fun. You know what? I woke up this morning, not in a great mood, but I'm feeling a little better. So it's But then you went and put on that beauty of a shirt, the Sakura shirt. Yeah.
And,
you can't feel bad while wearing this.
Yeah, no, that's a great segue to what we're talking about today. Because obviously we've sent you a pair of the Sakura boots that we did with PUMA. Also sent you the shirt because we did a shirt as well, and actually some goalkeeper gloves, which are also pretty cool. And, the reaction to these has been overwhelming. It's been so cool to see. I was a little bit, it's a bold design, and didn't really know how people would respond to it. Obviously, we expected a lot of people to love it because it's so cool, right? But you just never know. So it's been really great to see. What was your first reaction when you opened the box and you were greeted by pink cherry blossoms?
I'm not a pink boots guy. And I'll go on record and say that it's not a pair of boots that I would necessarily want to wear in the local Sunday league. However, as a piece of art, it's a very pretty football boot.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah.
Like that's the only way I can put it. If you're into pink, I can see why you would love these. I think the graphic aesthetically it's very pleasant. It's very high quality. I think a lot of these printed graphics we see on football boots, they're not exactly clear when you get up close, and these ones are really, really clear. And it's just, I don't know, it works really well. It's such a simple concept, but man, it looks good.
Yeah, I gotta agree. It's it was kind of the brainchild of one of my great colleagues, Oscar, who we got the opportunity to design this in the barbershop, and I quickly went down the barbershop route and kind of insisted that we do that. And then the other boot ended up being this one. So he was clear in his vision all the time. You know, he loved cherry blossoms, loved the whole story behind the Sakura and this whole connection to this. I don't know if you're familiar with the mono no aware concept of having like a general sadness over things passing, basically, and having this like you're not upset, but it's just like a sadness over the realization that life, in life, things pass. We thought it was really, that the cherry blossom, which just, it looks awesome. Like everyone who's seen a cherry blossom in bloom is like, they're in for a treat. It looks amazing, right? We love Japanese culture, and we just thought, okay, there's a story in here. So we kind of reverse engineered the whole thing and said, okay, we're not, we don't want to be sad because being sad sucks. Instead, we should try to look at things passing as a new beginning. And if you can look at, let's say, the season that just ended or passed, instead of being sad about it and the fact you're not playing football for a couple of weeks, then look at it as a new beginning, a chance to go again, to start fresh, to build on top of what you did last season, or to start again if last season wasn't the best. And kind of constantly remind yourself that there will always be a second chance and a third chance, a chance to go again. Because just like the Sakura, that blooms every year without fail, it looks just as beautiful. You can always get that second chance. We just loved that and figured, it looks really cool, but there's also like this, I don't know if anyone can use it, but this motivational story in there that we could tap into. Yeah,
it's a backstory, that's for sure. Like there's a lot. I understand. Look, I've never been involved in designing a football boot. So what can I really say in regards to like having a story behind a colorway?
Is that the Canadian way of saying, Jay, that's bullshit?
I just to me, like from day one, I've always been like, okay, I think it looks cool, and I don't really need a lot of explanation. Right. This to me, it's a really aesthetically pleasing football boot. It's pretty. I think it's exciting to look at. There's a lot of cool detail within all of the flowers on the upper. It looks really good. There's not much else for me to say beyond that.
Right. But look, I totally get you. And I think the reason we did these backstories was also to give the boots a little bit more depth because especially in modern time, back in the day, there always used to be like this backstory to the packs and the colorways. And I thought that was always pretty cool. Some of them eventually became like a little bit, far-fetched. And people might also say that this is far-fetched and the barbershop was far-fetched, but we at least wanted to give, make a cool design that people could relate to immediately and just, looks nice, but also give them a little bit more because we can tell stories. So why not do it instead of just, first and foremost, we want to make something that looks cool, but if we might as well do something nice and be motivational on top of it if we can.
Yeah.
But hey, and if you don't need it, fair enough. But I love the reaction to it. Oh man. I was just thinking, like a question for you. If we were to take the two Unisport PUMA Ultra boots and put them on PUMA players, if they were to be endorsed on pitch, who would you give these to? These in the barbershop?
That's a great question. I think I saw a lot of comments when I posted the Sakura on some of my socials. Is a lot of people suggested that this would be a great football boot for Neymar to wear. Which I get that. Like I think it's very fitting. It's flashy. It fits his playing style and personality, if you will. But then I also look at the barbershop ones and I think, wow, that would look so good with a PSG kit.
It would look so good,
right? Like, so for me, the barbershops on Neymar would be very cool to see. But I could also see why somebody would want to see him in something like this.
Yeah.
As far as the Sakura is concerned, man.
Wouldn't it be cool to see Antoine Griezmann in these?
It's kind of what I was about to say is Griezmann would be probably the best fit in terms of just a flashy guy. But then he's also, Well, I guess Neymar is too. They're both big haircut guys. So the barbershop also makes sense for him.
Well, you could argue that Neymar is a bigger haircut guy than Griezmann, who at the time, well, he didn't visit the barbershop much. At a certain point, well, but I think Griezmann for the Sakura, and also I really wanted to see the barbershops on Alain Saint-Maximin. Can you imagine? You know, that would look too cool. Too cool. That Newcastle kid, black and white, and then the boots popping. That would be great.
Yeah,
that would be great.
It'd be cool. Is there any chances of some pros wearing these?
There will be some pros. I think we have a female player lined up, and also a player from the Danish Super League. Who will hopefully wear them at some point. It's unconfirmed right now, but I hope to see these on the pitch on the feet of pros. And also, I mean, if you're a pro, you're sat out there thinking, I like them. I mean, they're 200 euros. Can only get them on Unisport.com.
I love that message. So if you're a pro and you happen to be watching this and you want to wear these, you know where to buy them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not plugging them. I'm just community service right there. Eh?
Yeah.
But anyways, Josh, in other news, that is, after all, just a colorway. A really cool one. We love it a lot. But what else happened last week was that you got your hands on the Mercurial. And last podcast, we talked about them, and obviously you had a lot of thoughts on them, but you hadn't seen them in the hand. You hadn't tried them on feet yet. So you have now. Obviously, I've seen your review, but for people who haven't, what is like the TLDR of your thoughts on the Merc?
To me, the key word in the new Mercurial and the Air Zoom Tech is flow. That the sensation of running in this boot is unlike anything else that I've ever tried. And the only way that I can describe it is a good pair of running shoes that doesn't necessarily propel you forward. I don't think this has the same feeling as the crazy zoom units we're seeing on some of these kind of like racing shoes that Nike is putting out effectively.
No.
But what I do think it offers is that the fluidity in terms of transitioning from the step to the stride off, it just has, it's so hard to describe because it doesn't compare to anything, right? But it's the only football boot that I've ever had on my feet where it makes me want to run just to have the feeling of running, if that makes any sense. It's it puts you on your toes, kind of on the balls of your feet, I think more than any other Mercurials that I've ever worn. And it's just, it's responsive, it's comfortable, it's so unique. I don't know how to put it into words. I think once you get the chance to try them on, it's one thing that you will immediately notice, but the experience of actually running in them is really the big thing here.
I agree. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. And, I've been looking, really, really searching my brain for a word to properly describe that, doing the review. How do I share this experience with people? I think flow is a great word to use there. It flows. It's a great, flows well into the foot. The movement is kind of natural, yet supported and dampened, and yet still a little bit energetic and cheeky. The response is cheeky, right? It's just a little bit of whoop whoop. You feel it, right? It's a great sensation. The upper though, talk to me about the upper.
See, the rest of the boot to me it kind of seemed like slight refinement of what they were doing before, but not really a huge change. I agree with you. I think there's a little more width added to the midfoot, closer towards the top two lace positions. I definitely think there seems to be a little more width and volume. Definitely a little more volume through the forefoot and toe box area as well. But I don't think a gigantic change in terms of overall shape. It still feels like a Mercurial to me. Like you mentioned in the last podcast, I think it is slightly better suited towards a wider foot type, or in my case, a flatter foot type. They definitely wrap my foot better than the previous Mercs do. I don't get that bulging around the ankle area like I would pretty much on almost every Mercurial I've ever worn. So in that sense, I think you're right in saying that it's a little bit more general in terms of how it's shaped, but definitely still very Mercurial-esque. I don't think they've gotten too far away from that. A little bit thinner, a little bit more pliable, but I do at the end of the day, once broken in, kind of feel like it's almost splitting hairs in terms of the improvements from Vaporposit to Vaporposit Plus.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. I just went back into the Superfly 8s the other day, and they do feel, blindfold me, and I probably wouldn't be able to 10 out of 10 times tell you the difference. I still tell myself at least that there's something about the, I wouldn't call it the firmness or the tightness of the new Vaporposit Plus upper, but it feels like somehow, there's a little bit more structure or richness to it while it's still super soft. It reminds me a little bit of like a middle ground between the old pure knit upper on the Superfly 7s and Vapor 13s and the Vaporposit upper we got on the previous generation. Do you know what I mean? It's just a little bit more, I wouldn't call it luxurious, but there's just a little bit more body to it somehow, which is super interesting to me.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. And if you look at how it's reinforced, the speed cage is obviously the story with this new Vaporposit Plus upper. It's a very different liner compared to the Vapor 14 and Superfly 8, and that it's not just reinforced by like a thin microfiber material. This is like a really thin, I don't know, like translucent mesh. It's a textile. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what it's made out of, and Nike's never really going to tell us, but it's impressive in terms of what they've done. And like I said, it's technically thinner. How much that actually translates into a difference in feel, I still think it's minimal. But again, it's a Mercurial Vapor. It's a Mercurial Superfly. It's supposed to feel a certain way, and I think they haven't strayed far away from what you expect a Mercurial to feel like.
Right. So let me ask you this question. Which of these and the previous generations, and let's also say the Vapor 13 Superfly 7, would you choose to play in if you had a match tomorrow? If we're talking about the boot as a whole, I'm picking the new Vapors.
Okay. The Vapor 15, I think this Air Zoom tech it's the one addition to what is basically an evolution of the continued success of the Mercurial formula. And I think they've managed to incorporate this in such a way where it only adds to the experience. I could see why a small percentage of people might not like the way that it feels. But I really think that, I don't even want to say 9 out of 10, 99 out of 100 people are really going to like the feel of this Air Zoom tech. And something that was really surprising to me, because I was genuinely expecting the weight to have gone up with the incorporation of this 3/4 length zoom unit. It's actually lighter. It's one of the lightest Mercurials since the Vapor 11, which I think is technically the lightest Mercurial Vapor. And it's only a couple grams off of that, which is really impressive. So there's very little, if not any, downside to the incorporation of this new technology, which is not at all what I was expecting.
I agree. Imagine if this had the Vapor 11 shape. Wow. I just think, it also goes to show how far we've come in terms of uppers. I love this upper. It just hits every right spot in terms of like the secure feeling, the sensation of fixation of your foot where you need it, and it's so pliable when you break it in. Like it's ridiculous. I really like them. I think for me it's a bit of a toss of which boot would I wear. I love the previous generation, love the 13 Superfly 7 generation. I think these yeah. I don't know, man. They've all been really good. Depends on which surface I'm playing on, though. But that's a discussion for a later episode. But because we will be talking AG at some point, and that will be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to that one.
All right.
Because I've worn the new, I've worn the AG plate as well, and definitely interesting. And it's not released yet. Can't reveal more, but it will be an interesting one to talk about as well.
Okay, I look forward to talking about that because I know very little about it.
Yes, and yet I think you do. already. But with that little bit of a teaser, let's move on to some questions. Unless you have any other notes on the Mercurial, Josh.
No, I credit to Nike for once again introducing something that it's been done before. We can't say Air Zoom tech is new in football boots. It's been on a bunch before.
What can you do these days that is entirely new, groundbreaking?
But that's the problem. Is I think people are trying way too hard. The haters or the doubters of this Air Zoom tech in the new Mercs, and I understand it. Like, it's realistically, how much can you change about the formula of the Mercurial Vapor or the Superfly?
And how much do you want to change because it works?
That's the thing, right? So it's you can't compare it to anything else. That's the big thing. That's why it's so difficult to describe. But I think what they've done is not only a unique sensation, it's a very positive one, and that's so hard to do in 2022. When there have been so many football boots released with so many great ideas. This to me it's something special. And I didn't expect it to feel as good as it does. Because to me, this is a gigantic step up over the Air Zoom Ultra, which I thought felt really good. This feels, in my opinion, at least twice as good. It's a huge improvement over that.
But it makes the Air Zoom Ultra feel, the Zoom Ultra, what they call it, it makes it feel like a concept boot, like some sort of unfinished, ideation process boot. What did I want to say? Oh, yeah. It's also impressive how they managed to incorporate a technology that could be, really divisive. They've managed to incorporate it to the point where it's noticeable, but it's not annoyingly noticeable. And I don't think too many people, like you said, will really hate it. Maybe they will prefer, the feeling of having a traditional tooling. With that, maybe a slightly more direct feeling with the ground. And I understand this, people prefer that. But I don't think there will be, that many downright haters who will just think, oh, the boot is broken for me. Like, we all have our preferences, but I don't think it's as divisive as it could have been. Yeah. And it maybe sounds on paper. Do you know what I mean?
And a couple things to note that I've heard a lot of people talking about. I tried these boots on a couple different pitches, and summertime, where I am in Canada, it's very hot. Like, we're at 30 degrees almost every day for the last couple of weeks. Haven't had a lot of rain. The fields are rock hard. It's not a fun environment to play the game in. And when I went to try these out, I brought the old Mercurials, as I typically do when I test stuff out. And the difference in just the experience of running with and without the Zoom Air Tech, my goodness, what a joy, what a relief, I would say, to have that Air Zoom Tech underneath your foot when the ground is a little bit harder. I don't think it's going to be as, I don't even want to say impactful. I just don't think it's going to be as noticeable if the ground is a little bit softer, but at the same time, it's something that you will feel with every single step, which is really impressive to me. It's one of those things. It's one of those things now where if you said, Josh, if you have the option to put an Air Zoom unit in any football boot, if you want it, I can't see myself saying that I wouldn't want it.
Okay, interesting. I'll get back to that in a second with the questions. But I've also tried these on very hard grounds. We also have really, well, not really, but a warm, dry summer here in Denmark. And I've also tried them on like firm, natural pitches, soft-ish pitches as well. The one in Barcelona was on the softer side, which was nice.
Sure.
And you definitely feel it less. Again, it's more prominent when the ground is hard. Obviously, you feel that response, that the way it flows with the foot. You feel that a little bit more. I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker. I like it there, but that's also the reason why the whole propelling you forward thing. I don't really think you'll feel a negative difference when you're on a normal firm grass pitch.
I don't think so either. And I've also seen a lot of people questioning the durability of this element. I understand that we've never seen zoom implemented on a football boot like this before, but air zoom is such a have you ever heard of a zoom unit breaking? I haven't.
I haven't, but we've had this comment, and it said, maybe it was on the Unisport channel, couldn't find it here, but it said that what happens in someone steps on your foot? Wouldn't it risk the zoom air unit popping? And I mean, technically it could, but they would have to step actually through your foot. I mean, it sits inside the plate, so the risk of it popping would be that someone actually hits the underside of the tooling and cracks it open, and the stud penetrates the. I just don't see it happening. Like,
yeah, and it's I don't even think popping is the right word to describe a zoom unit, because it doesn't. No. It's technically has air. It's in the name, obviously, but I almost describe zoom as like a really, really bouncy gel. Like in my review, I said it's like taking an air mattress and overinflating it and then jumping on it, where you would sink in really quickly, but then bounce up really fast. That's what a zoom unit is, and the way that they've implemented it here. It's the implementation of zoom that I think is so important, because I've had plenty of zoom footwear over the years where you don't notice anything. It just feels like regular foam. I think a great example would be most of Nike's indoor models that have had zoom over, I don't know, the last decade. You don't feel it. There's a unit in the heel, there's a unit in the forefoot, but because it's underneath foam typically, you don't feel it. When you sit directly on top of it like you are in this, it's a very different experience. But again, from a durability perspective, regardless of temperature, I just don't foresee it being a big issue.
Nah, I'm not too worried, to be honest. I'm not too worried. But hey, let's see what the future holds. And if we do experience any issues, or if you guys do, let us know in the comment section right down below, and we'll pick it up if it happens. I mean, it's probably going to happen to some unlucky guy out there, right? But that's in like 100,000. I don't know.
Yeah, there's gonna be issues, but that's what the warranty program is for.
It is what it is. Anyways, questions. By the way, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section right down below. We'll bring them up in each episode in the Q&A section. We start out with Mr. LW. Will the AG version also have air technology? It's a great question, but like I said earlier, the AG version hasn't been released yet. When it does get released, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
In lengths. So just wanted to flag it here. We get a lot of questions on the AG tooling. Can't say much yet because it's not out yet.
Yeah.
Okay? Good. Chris Catanoy. In my opinion, these look like the NB Furon, probably referencing the Air colorway. And I kind of get that. Also, the shape of the boot in general is a little bit more. It feels like it's higher around where the tongue, the tip of the tongue, whatever you want to call that. At the highest point, it feels like it's a little bit. There's a bit more volume there, which is also something you'd see on the Furon. So I wouldn't disagree. I've had that thought myself a few times.
I see the silhouette is similar, but you can also say that the Furon is heavily inspired by Mercurial, as are most speed boots, right? Like, so whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't buy into that too much.
Nah, but I can see where he's coming from. Anyways, as Lyle, are these good for wider feet? Because the previous Mercurial ain't the best for wide feet, and these seem to be a bit wider. We've kind of touched on it already, but Josh, do you just want to round it up?
Yeah, they are a little bit wider, but I don't think that they're necessarily wide-fitting football boots. The Mercurials, for the last, I don't know, several generations, will fit most people, even if you do have wider feet. It's a matter of whether or not you like a tight-fitting, structured upper. If you don't, regardless of whether or not you have wide feet, you probably won't find them comfortable.
And I think, it's not for the widest of feet, but, wide-footed people will accommodate, and they will feel all right. They won't feel claustrophobic. At least that's the experience that some of my colleagues who have really wide feet have had. And I trust that. But I don't know, because my feet are the narrowest I know. Anyways, long trend. Sorry, go on.
That's okay. No, go ahead.
Great. Long trend. Simple question. Air zoom on the new Mercs or the carbon fiber Carbotex tooling on the Speedflow? was a good question. That's the one I wanted to come back to.
Yeah, I've heard this one a lot. And as great as I think Carbitex is on the speed flows, and as much potential energy return that it could provide, which I would argue is possibly more than Air Zoom, I don't think it's as meaningful to the experience as Air Zoom is. And if you want to believe that your football boots are making you perform better, then I guess you have to try them both and judge for yourself at that point. But if I'm talking about what I can feel the most and what I deem to be a positive type of feel from both technologies, I like the feel of Air Zoom over the Carbitex insert.
Yeah. And I think that kind of hits the nail on the head. To me, this is a question of apples or bananas. You know, it's because I know they're marketed as the same thing, but to me, they're not. To me, the Air Zoom unit is it's comfort. It's a comfort, fit, feel element, whatever. Whereas the Carbitex element is responsiveness. It's speed. Element. It's centered around that, right? It's centered around giving you at least the mental benefit of feeling like you are being propelled forward. It's that snappiness when you accelerate. And for me, it does give it's a positive thing for me. I like to wear that. So for me it's a question of what I prefer the most. And I don't know, because it's about what I want on the day, if you know what I mean. Am I looking for that? Am I looking for like the bare-boned or super raw, speedy experience? I could be, but I'm getting old. So I also really, really appreciate a comfortable football boot. And I might, in the end, be leaning towards the Mercurials because the fit in them is just, it's so good, and fit just matters. It does. And would I be willing to sacrifice an otherwise fantastic bit of technology and a fantastic implementation in the SpeedFlow for the Air Zoom unit? End of the day, I probably would. Will I wear, if I had a match tomorrow, would I wear the Superflies? Because I like the Superfly better for this. I just don't know why. Superflies or XP Flow 0.1s? I think Superflies.
Okay. Yeah, that's... And that's not surprising to me. No? Having tried the Mercs, I think the problem right now is everyone's watching and listening to us talk about these boots because we are one of few people that have had the opportunity to try them, because these technically haven't even launched yet. Once people get the chance to try them, I think there will be a lot more understanding about why we both think Air Zoom is as impactful from a comfort perspective when compared to anything else. Sure.
But yeah, I agree. And it'll also be interesting for me to see like what people, how people perceive the Mercurial. Because if you ask me what is the best speed boot out of the XP Flu, the XP Flu and the Mercurials, I probably like, if I'm having a speed boot kind of day, I'm choosing the X's. For me, it's the better, the sharper, the more hardcore speed. But it's kind of filling the void that Mercurial is kind of left behind, being more generally appealing, like we talked about. But as a whole, probably the Mercs. They're doing a good job at being generally appealing because they just feel good. Yeah, I hope that was a somewhat of a decent answer to that question. We kind of took like the politician route and just said, what do you think? A guy that is probably at least Scandinavian, maybe even Danish, Nikolai Døsen. Can you use the new Mercurials on AG, and what do you think about the size you should pick? Now, if you're talking about the FG outsole, which is the one that's currently available, then you can, and you can also be lucky not to get injured, but there is the risk. Now, I'm currently sitting, we just went out shooting, with my left ankle wrapped because I wore Mercurials on AG and my ankle got absolutely screwed up. So, you can, but it's at your own risk, and I would personally try to avoid it because it's not worth the risk. Trust me, mate, it's not worth the risk. And I'll be trying to avoid it as much as I can.
Yeah, I don't think any Mercurial FG stud pattern is really well suited for use on artificial grass.
No, and there will be an AG outsole for the new Mercurial, and it is good. So I would just wait a little bit and see. Which size? I went through the size. Don't know about you.
Same.
So if you have previous Mercurials, same size as those. I'm a US 7 Europe 40, US 7 Europe 40 in these, and it's great fit lengthwise. Perfect fit. Yeah. Peter Ries, I think. Probably also Danish guy. I think making the Mercurial more generally appealing works great for Nike since they gain more customers than they lose by doing that, as Josh said, which was clever. But I also think that it's a great opportunity to make a real Superfly with crazy technologies and the goal of being the ultimate speed boot, because it kind of isn't right now. The Mercs might still be a speed boot enough, but I would love to see the return of the Mercurial Superfly Sidle. Amen to that. Peter.
Yeah, I agree with that, but the more times I hear it now, the more I think to myself, is this just us as boot nerds really wanting something, or is this something that the general consumer is actually calling for? Because I almost feel like it's at a point now where the general consumer kind of just understands that they're the same boot, one mid, one low. Is it now too big of an ask from a marketing perspective to re-explain how the Superfly and the Vapor are two different football boots? And then at that point as well, I also question, we talked about this in the last episode where we talked about the new Mercs. I was really surprised Nike implemented Air Zoom Tech without raising the price.
Yeah.
But I would wonder if they did go crazy with the Superfly, does that $25 price gap that they currently have, does that go up?
But here's another question. If they make something truly like sick, if they take it to the next level, that you and I we can't see it coming. But you know, they just have something up their sleeve all the time, right?
Sure.
If they do something like that, do you think some people would be willing to pay 300 euros for it?
Oh yeah, I do. I definitely think there would be a market for a far more expensive Mercurial. All I'm saying is, are we as boot nerds potentially treading water we shouldn't be treading when it comes to asking Nike to bring back a true Superfly, just from a cost perspective?
Oh, well,
mate, look, we have to remember Superfly 1, $350 retail price. Superfly 2 and 3, $400 retail price. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they were abysmal football boots as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, I still think what we had with the 4s and the 5s, that was a great thing. And I'd really like to see that again. And maybe give the Superfly a break for a year or two. So, you know, so when you bring it back, you can really come back with the big bang and say Superfly actually means extraordinary, not just, you know, in line. It means extraordinary. It could have been that the Ultra boots in the future will be called Superfly or Ultrafly. I don't care. I would like to have something special. And maybe I'm a boot nerd and super biased and I can't, you know, I've got my blinders on. I think in terms of entering that territory, it's way too late for us. Like about 141 episodes too late. But you're right. I think the big thing for Nike would be to figure out how much sales would they lose if they kill off the Superfly and reintroduce it at a higher price point, potentially selling slightly fewer boots, but at a higher price. Like it would need to make sense financially, right? Because it's a good deal.
And I think that's probably where they've run the numbers is, does it make sense for them to
probably doesn't
develop two different football boots? Because there's a cost associated to that. And how much does developing a different Vapor and a different Superfly actually help them in growing the Mercurial brand? Because I'm sure that's probably what they're more focused on doing than anything else. So it's from a cost perspective and a business perspective, I kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing at this point.
Absolutely. And look, it might seem a little bit silly that they have two boots which are that similar. It's basically just a sock that separates them. And they have different names and stuff. But you know, the old saying goes that if it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid. So it's not stupid.
Yeah.
Anyways, we have another question, which is a really good question actually, and one that I had to bring out all boots to really make up my mind on. Devontae Lewis, between the Superfly 4, the Superfly 7, and the Superfly 9, which has the softest upper? So I brought out a Superfly 4. Yeah, but I'll let you go first.
Look, I think just from memory, because again, you're right. Pulling them out and having them in your hands and maybe even trying them on is probably the best way to do this. From memory, I would say the Superfly 4 would be the thinner Flyknit upper when compared to the Superfly 7, for sure. However, from a comfort is very subjective, obviously, but I think if you want a little bit of softness to your Flyknit upper, I would argue that the Superfly 7 would win that.
Yeah, and I think we have to define what soft here means. If we're talking about soft as in like this dampened, almost cushiony feeling, then definitely the Superfly 7, I would agree. If we're talking softness in terms of pliability, I whipped them out and I thought, Superfly 4 easily. Easy. But actually, they are stupidly soft, stupidly pliable, right? But then I got this out. This is the Vapor. I just had the Vapor in mind. They're the same boot stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, these are a little bit more pliable than the Force. And I think it's because of the silicone film, the silicone coating on top of the boots, which back then maybe was a little thicker, or not as... It didn't have the same ability to soften up with wear as it does today. So it just has a little bit more of that, structural softness to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more plasticky.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a connection that I never really made until right now, but you might make the argument that the new Vaporposit Plus upper is probably the closest thing to that Superfly 4 Flyknit upper since that boot in 2014. Like that might be the best comparison in terms of past Mercurials.
Yeah, and it has the same your textile pliability as the Superfly 7 did. Again, I've got the Vapor. Don't hate the player, hate the game. But because of the structure of the knit, and also I feel like the thickness of the textile, because this is knit and this is not. It's just a little bit. There's more structural integrity in this material, making it feel a little bit less pliable than this one. And yeah, I think it's a fair point. In short.
Yeah.
So yeah, great question. All of them are really soft. Some of the most pliable uppers we've seen on boots these many years. But yeah, interesting one. And that's the new upper on the new Mercurial. Especially when you break it in, it's sensational. And I think that should be the closing. That should be the closing remark of episode 141. Unless you have anything to add, Josh.
Nothing else.
Nothing else
to add.
With those words, then remember to subscribe and like the episode if you had a good time. Of course, you can also subscribe to Josh's channel right over there, Unisport. See what I do right over here. Click the white bubble in the middle to subscribe to the Bootnerds podcast. Of course, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section right down below if you have a question that you want us to answer. And otherwise, yeah. Get subscribing. With those words, I've been JayMike. I approve this message. See you later.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.